Live. Hey guys, what's up? Welcome to another episode of Wholesaling with Lenny. Guys, tonight I have the pleasure, the honor, okay? Listen, if it wasn't for my next guest, okay, I don't know. Honestly, I don't know where I would be, okay? Listen, I use the man contracts for everything, okay? I've learned, listen, dude, I've learned so much from my next guest, man. And, without further ado, I'm going to just go ahead and introduce David Frizzell for you guys. Dave, how you doing today?
Good, man. How you doing, Lenny?
I'm great, man. I'm great, man. Thank you for coming to the show.
Sure.
Dave, man, once again, man, I'd like to say thank you. Give you your flowers, man, while you're still here, and let you know, brother, man, you helped me out on my journey, man, so much. It was a pleasure getting you in the group. It's definitely an honor, man, having you here. Sit down and talk to me about the toolbox. I mean, I've used the owner financing contract, right? I've used your purchase and sale agreement. I've used your every deal I close. I use your contracts, right?
I like it.
So that means a lot to me, man. For having you on the show, and I do want to talk about the Wholesalers
Okay.
Toolbox.com and what sparked your interest. Before you do that, though, right? Would you tell the people where you from, what you currently got going on, and how some of
Oh man, I got so many things going on right now. I don't even have time to think straight. I am originally from Detroit, Michigan. We born and raised in Detroit. Back years ago, we had moved to Florida, and my wife and I lived here. We had our kids down here. They went to school down here. In 2008, we went back to Michigan, and I got into inspecting properties and eventually into rehabbing houses for investors and doing those things. Ended up, getting into the wholesaling business, and then just last year moved back down here to Florida. So we're kind of go back and forth, But I've been in sales or some form of real estate my whole life, right? Either fixing houses, inspecting houses. I did mortgages on houses. I've had real estate license, Michigan and down here. So I've just, it's just kind of my wheelhouse. I just always stick around real estate because I understand the business.
most definitely, man, most definitely. So when you say, you was, flipping the houses, and then you got into wholesaling, um, did you stumble into wholesaling? Was it something
I
you knew?
stumbled. I stumble into everything. That seems to be the theme of my life. Right? So I was in the mortgage business down here when the mortgage industry collapsed in 2008 2009, and we ended up going back to Michigan. And I was like, it was so hard to get a mortgage done then for anybody. So I was looking for something else to do. I'm like, I've got to find something, to make money and to spend my time on. So I started actually doing the occupancy inspections for the banks. When the house was going in foreclosure, they would have an inspector go out and look at the property, because if the person were to move out of the house, the bank could speed up the foreclosure process. So they hired lots of people to go out and just go look
Mm,
at the house and see if there were people still living there. So I was doing that, and I was making decent money, but it was just, there was a ton of houses, ton of driving all the time. So, I thought, well, if I could find an inspecting job that paid better, I wouldn't have to do as many houses. So actually I found a gig off of Craigslist, and it was a investment company in Detroit looking for somebody to go inspect houses before they purchased them. And I'm like, I can do that, right? I can go look at a house and tell you how much to fix it and all that stuff.
right.
So I started doing that for them, and they paid me great to do it. But I'd go look at properties for them, and then eventually they said, "Hey, you've got a great eye for the real estate, and when a rehab's done and what's not done right and all this stuff. why don't you just rehab houses for us? And I said, I have zero experience rehabbing houses. And they're like, well, you're smart, you'll figure it out. So
Wow.
I ended up hiring a crew of guys and started rehabbing houses. And within a year, I had 4 crews of guys rehabbing houses, and I did that for quite a few years until I just got so burnt out. I was doing so many houses, getting up 5, 6 o'clock in the morning, working to midnight, and then I heard about wholesaling, and I'm like, this sounds pretty good. This sounds a lot better than what I'm doing. So
Right.
made the transition. I just kind of winded down on the rehabs that I was doing, and just got in the car, started driving for dollars, and started doing it.
No doubt, no doubt. So when you've have massive experience in real estate investing, in fix and flips, as well as a lot of wholesale deals, right?
Mhm.
Um, when you created the wholesalers toolbox, right? Well, when you created the gift, okay, this is what I call it, the gift, right? Because the wholesalers toolbox is literally a gift for anybody who wants to start wholesaling, right? I mean, you have the wholesale university, which is free,
Mhm.
right? Absolutely free. There's a library of information, right? Ton of media, ton of content. Anyone could just go through there and do it as well. And then as well, you also have a partnership, program as well, where someone can actually partner with you, you know, kind of watch what you do, not take as many hits
Yeah.
being a new wholesaler by working with someone like you who's experienced, right? Who people know, who people trust. You can say hey in Detroit and people say hey, Dave, definitely. So when you started the wholesaler toolbox, like what did you have in mind? Like what did you have in mind when you started?
I think it was like, Uh, that's a good question, man. When I started wholesaling, I was used to doing a lot of video for investors looking at properties and doing stuff because I was dealing with a lot of people overseas, and so they would hire me to go out and look at properties, and I do video, and I kind of do content for that. So I thought, this would be good for another wholesaler, right? Or somebody getting into the business to see what I'm doing, because when I was researching it, I bought a couple little courses that were available, and they had very small little 1-page contracts and different things. But everybody, they still do it. They say go to YouTube, just YouTube University, right? Go figure it
Right.
out. But I thought, there needs to be some place where it's more organized, right? It's like, so like you have the steps, because I'm going to
Exactly.
YouTube and I'm watching stuff and I'm like, well, what if all the steps aren't here? What if I'm missing something? What if I'm not seeing the right video or whatever? So that's why, with the website, I've just kind of laid out with Wholesaling University, step one, step two, this is what you should do, and go through it. I don't charge anything for it, like you said. Because I was just trying to help people get into the business, right? If there are a lot of people that can't, afford hundreds and thousands of dollars for a course. So I thought, I'll just lay it out here, and if people stumble across it, hopefully it will help them. And like you said with the contracts, I've had, I started that website in 2014, and I've met so many people that have said the same thing you did. I found your website. You helped me get into wholesaling.
Definitely.
I talked to a guy a couple months ago, and he's like, I started wholesaling. Now I'm doing, like commercial buildings and all this. He's like a big, investor and all that. But it's gratifying for me just to know that people stumbled across that. It helped them get going in the career, and change their trajectory of their life.
Right, definitely, man. So it's kind of like if you teach a man to fish,
Exactly.
He can go on and feed himself, forever. So,
Right. So
yeah,
that's been the whole thing behind the wholesalers toolbox is just just putting good out there and hoping people find it, with searching for contracts or whatever, and them being able to get where they're going.
definitely. Now, real quick, just to backtrack, you actually mentioned the contract, right? When you're talking about YouTube, that one-page contract. Now, the contract that I use is your contract, right? And I tell everybody, use Dave's contract. The contract, every contract that you got, I've literally put into the file section of the Wholesaling with Lenny group. So if anybody need any contracts, they literally go right to the file section and then thank Dave Frizzell later, okay? But 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 seriously, the contract is not just one page. The contract goes in depth, right?
Yeah.
As far as inspection goes, as far as seller not signing the contract with somebody else while they're under contract with you. There's so many brilliant clauses in that contract. Would you say your time in all these fields of real estate help you build that contract a little better
Oh, sure.
versus that one
Yeah.
page?
Yeah, absolutely. It's funny because, everybody the common question is this legal in Ohio, or is this
Right.
contract legal in, contracts, people have a misconception about contracts. If you and I went into a bar and you said, "Hey, David, I want to sell my house to you," and I say, "Okay, what's the terms?" and we wrote it on a bar napkin and we both signed it, that's a contract, right? That's
Right.
legal binding contract. So some states have things like, you have to have this disclaimer, you have to have that, or whatever. But contracts are, you've seen them. I mean, there's one-page contracts. There's the real estate contracts that a real estate agent uses, whatever. So there's all kinds of different contracts. But the one that's on the website, on the Wholesalers Toolbox, is laid out to benefit a wholesaler, right? It gives you, the inspection period. It gives you, your so you can get out of the contract if you can find a buyer. And, it talks about all the things that we wanted to talk about that protect us as wholesalers, right? So yeah, being in the business, I put that all together and wrote it out myself, and, just, made it for us.
Most definitely, man. I
Right.
mean,
And then if you've been on the website lately, on the contract page, because I've laid out a good JV agreement, a good assignment form, a notice of cancellation, which not many people talk about, but like if you're going to walk away from a contract, you need to tell people. So I've got that
exactly.
on there. But all the forms, and then I've created videos for each that or is just me going through the contract, filling it out, and explaining what each section is. So if you're not familiar with contracts, you can go in there, watch me fill it out, and then you have an understanding of what you're getting into.
Most definitely, man. That's so important, especially that notice cancellation, right?
Yeah,
Because I mean, you got wholesalers who just leave people on the hook,
yeah,
and it's like, well, I was supposed to sell it to this guy, but I never heard from him again. Or I was supposed to sell it to this girl and I never heard from her again,
yeah.
and then, they're sitting there
And
waiting on.
that gives our profession a bad name, right? For people doing that, because you have to handle yourself professionally, right? So if I come to you and say, "Hey, Lenny, I'm going to buy your house," right, and I put it under contract, and I can't find anybody to buy it, I can't ghost you. They're counting on, you're counting on me coming through and buying that house. So if something happens, and within 2 weeks I can't find a buyer for that, I need to fill out that notice of cancellation and just say, "Hey, Lenny, I got with my contractor, the repairs were more than I anticipated," or whatever. I have a list of reasons on the form, but just check one and just say, "You know what, it's just, my partner didn't agree to the deal," or whatever. And just, so the people know that you're not going to move forward with it. I mean, it's the right way to handle it.
Yeah,
People people like to stick their head in the sand because they don't want to have that conversation, right? They don't want to tell somebody that they're not going to go through with it, but you need you need to do it.
Yeah, yeah, you most definitely need to do it, because that actually brings the chance for the wholesaler to maybe get some more time, or maybe to actually get the property lower.
Yeah.
You never know. Instead of you actually, like you said, sticking your head in the sand and kind of hoping to go
It's
away.
it's the perfect time because you send the property out and somebody says, "Hey, I would love this property if it was $10,000 cheaper or whatever." And but if you can't find anybody to buy your price, and you go back and you say, "Hey, the repairs were just too much, more than I anticipated," it's a great time to negotiate. Would you be willing to come down 10 grand on the price? And a lot of times they'll say yes, right? People surprise you, right? They're
Yeah,
motivated to sell. They'll do it.
you're right. People would definitely surprise you, man. People would definitely surprise you, motivated to sell.
Yeah.
You're definitely right about that one. So, guys, if you guys are watching, man, make sure that you guys don't ghost sellers, okay?
No.
Because especially guys, especially if you guys got to find a seller that's in a situation that really needs solving, right? You definitely do not want to just walk away and leave that person hanging, guys, because you never
Yeah,
know.
in because in our scenario, you're dealing with probate, you're dealing with tax delinquent, you're dealing with divorce, you're dealing with whatever, and people are in a bad way, right? And you don't want to be that kind of person that is going to make the situation even worse. Can't hear you. Lost your mic.
About that. Sorry about that. Yeah, definitely not at all. So, Dave, you do got um, the YouTube. I mean, not excuse me, the Wholesaling University, right?
Yeah.
We got all the contracts that we need, right? You do coaching, correct?
I do. I'm not doing coaching. No, I'm a personal motivator, but I'm not a coach. Right?
Okay,
I'll,
okay, okay.
I'll occasionally get
There,
on the phone
there's
with
there's the
people.
difference. There's the difference. There's
Yeah,
the
there's
difference.
a difference. Here's the deal, Lenny, and this is why I don't coach, is because there's just a lot of people that just won't do it. Right? People talk about wholesaling, and people will buy a course about wholesaling, and they'll watch YouTube. But when it comes right down to getting in the car and going out and doing it, or rolling up your sleeves and getting on the phone and doing it, um, there's the big portion of people just won't do what it takes to get it done,
Yeah,
and maybe it's, I don't want to say it's selfish or whatever, but I don't want to deal with it.
I get it. I get it.
Like, I
Yeah,
want people
yeah.
to
I
be
mean, I definitely
serious,
wouldn't
right?
say
That's
selfish.
why I do it the way I do it. And believe me, like, everybody tells me I'm crazy. Like, oh, David, like, I've paid thousands of dollars for less information than you have on your website, right?
Right.
But I don't want to do that, right? I want people, no matter what your financial situation, I want you to be able to get to the information, right? But then on the flip side, if it's free, I can't put a ton of time into, like, coaching and doing all these things, right? I rather,
Definitely.
what I do, Lenny, is like, and this morning I did it with a lady out of Colorado. She emailed me and she's talking about, she'd done a couple of deals, but she was struggling to get back in the groove, and she wanted a mentor and all that. And so occasionally I'll do a call and I'll say, hey, let's hop on a video call and I'll talk to you. And because I like to talk to people and know what they're going through and what the hangups are. But I tell everybody the same thing. And it's, there's a list of about 10 reasons why people aren't successful wholesaling. It's, they're afraid people are going to think they're an imposter. They're scared to do it, so they just endlessly do courses and watch YouTube and all that. They don't want their family to think they're nuts for going out and doing it. There's like all these
Right.
reasons. But at the end of the day, the people that are going to be successful that do it are people that want it so bad in their gut, they're just going to go out and do it. right? So out of everybody that finds my website, I just want the people that want to do it in their gut to get out and get it done.
Most definitely, man. I get that because what I found out that, like you said, the free, it just kind of, everybody just kind of, it just get wild, right? And then, if you teach 10 people, for 2 weeks how to do something, and then nobody hits the button.
Right.
And it's kind of like, what was we doing? Like, what was you doing all this time, right? I'm trying to teach you, like, what was you doing all this time? Was you,
Yeah.
not paying attention, or what was going on? So,
I just think personally, I think my time is better spent um, bringing things to people that might help them along. The website, I'm working on a wholesaling CRM right now, and working on projects where I think that I can be of most, service to people, because there's, more coaches than you can shake a stick at, right?
yeah,
I mean, there
yeah,
is, right? So, does the industry need another coach? I don't know if they do or not, so I'll just do what I do,
I definitely get it, man. I definitely get it. So, yeah, I was
And I'm
just,
not knocking your group. I'm not knocking
oh no,
but
no,
you just don't need me, right?
yeah, definitely. You already know. You already, you already know. You already know. But no, I was just looking, at how some people got a lot of like crap on their website, right? You don't have a lot of crap on your website, right? It's like, look here, this is what I'm gonna teach you. This is how you get help. This is your help, right?
Yeah,
Seconds on down. If you need any help, email me. If you want to partner with me, email me, right? It's not a lot of gimmicks, as you say, there's not a lot of gimmicks and stuff like that attached,
yeah,
man. And
yeah.
people appreciate it.
I've got products like everybody does. So I affiliate for PropStream or
Right.
for a Deal Machine or whatever, like a lot of people in our industry do. Um, so I'll promote those things, but it's not like with the university though. If somebody like signs into that, there's no upsell. I'm not going to call you in a week and go, but you should really get our our $200 course. Right?
Yeah.
There's none of that. I don't. I'll send you something on like getting Deal Machine or something like that. But I'm not selling it. I'm not selling a course of my own, and I don't ever plan to.
Exactly, man. I get it. So when we was talking about the CRM, right? Building the CRM, man. Can you get into that a little bit?
Yeah, sure. Who's Sage? Is somebody coming in to join us here?
Yeah, we just got him on mute real quick. We had a few more guests. Had a few more guests, but
You want to see the CRM?
yeah, definitely.
Okay. So I'll give you guys a sneak peek at the CRM. So let me kind of like introduce it first. So again, I talk to a lot of people, a lot of wholesalers. So, a big problem that I feel is in the industry of people coming into wholesaling is they get beat up on all the courses, all the software, all the expense, right? I'm a new wholesaler. People are like, oh, you need a Carrot website, you need PropStream, you need the CRM, you need that, and then they're like in it $500 a month before they've ever sold
Right.
a property, right?
Exactly.
It takes me 3, 4, 5 months to do my first deal, and I've already spent $4,000 in subscriptions to get to get everything done.
Yeah.
So I wanted to, and this is going to probably make a lot of CRM people angry, but I wanted to kind of take the good stuff from the Wholesalers Toolbox, bring it to a CRM, and price the CRM super cheap, like super cheap. I'm going to be, everybody else is like $97, blah, blah. I'm going to put this thing out there like premium, like $29 a month.
Oh wow.
Right. And then I might have some lesser, features where if you just want, the phone dialer and email, stuff like that, I'll do it for, for less than that. And then also say to people, like if you're signing up for PropStream or you're signing up for Deal Machine, as long as you have that subscription, I'll give you the CRM for $7 a month or something, right? So they can have the tool, but it's not costing them $100 a month to have it, right?
Exactly.
So let me show you real quick. I'll just make a quick pass down through it and show everybody what I'm talking about here. All right, see my screen? Can you see it? I think I lost your sound, Lenny.
Oh, yeah, you got to click the tab.
You see the screen?
No, I see you still. You got to click
Oh, do
the
you?
tab. Which tab did you want to share?
Oh, I got you.
See it?
No. Yeah, it came up and then, let's see. Present. Share screen.
Right, it should be a tab option.
Here, we'll go over here. We'll do it like this. There we go. See it?
I don't. Hold on. Let me try something. Guys, me and you? No.
Oh, maybe here. That is weird because it says I'm sharing.
Really? Yeah, I just still see you.
Huh. Well, that's no fun.
No, not at all. Not at all. Not at all.
Yeah, it says sharing this tab to StreamYard. It should be showing.
Really?
Yeah.
Hold on, let me see here. Okay, now it's all on you now.
All right. You still don't see it?
No, I can just see you. Like I literally just
I
blew
see
you.
me. All right. Let's see here. Hang on. Wonder why that doesn't switch over. Now I look like I can't work technology whatsoever.
No, this is probably just my StreamYard. I've had
All right. I'm going to do it one more time. What about now?
no.
Interesting.
Yeah, it's wild. Yeah, we can't get that. Hold on, let me see here if I can do something on my PC.
Are you going on your PC to see if it's showing?
Yeah, I'm trying to see if it'll let me share screen. Okay. Well, it let me share screen,
Interesting.
but this is a toolbox.
Yeah, maybe it's because I'm not signed in or something, but it's like when I go in there, it's just not showing. It's
Okay. Yeah, it's wild. Okay, what is the website?
well, you're not going to be able to go into it. It's got to
That's
you
right.
actually got to log into it.
Right,
So,
I have a link. Right, correct.
all right, go to. I mean, it's the well, man. I wish I could show it to you.
Yeah, I know. I don't know what's wrong with this thing.
And try it one more time. Share to amount of sharing screen on a good amount. Yeah. All right. Yeah, it shows. So it shows I'm going to share that screen. Share tab audio.
Still not giving us no look.
Yeah, that's weird, man, because it says I'm sharing with you.
Wow. Is it okay? See if you can share another screen. Use like a different tab or something.
All right, let's see that. See that?
Nope, but I see it. It lit up on your side though.
Yeah, that's the view tab. Yeah, I don't know. I can't explain it. All right, so hang on. Let's do this. We'll show. Can I drop a picture in chat? Let's see if we can do that. This doesn't make for good podcasting here, I'll tell you that.
We are right. We are right.
You're gonna have to trim this down, Lenny. Let's see. Let's find you here. I'm gonna drop this in our chat, and if you just want to share it on the screen, and I'll just kind of go down and explain everything. I just sent it to you on Messenger.
Oh, sweet.
If you want to open it up, and I'll just go down. It's a picture of the dashboard.
Most definitely. Crank this thing open really quick. Boop. Okay. Let me go back. StreamYard. Enter the studio. Okay. Present. Share screen. Oh, which one? Okay. Chrome tab. Okay, bam.
Yeah, it doesn't get much bigger.
Oh shit. Whoa, what just happened? Dude, well, I want to get bigger.
No, there you go. This is better. That's better. All right, so I'm just going to run down here through everybody. Okay, for everybody. So we're in the final stages of getting this thing wrapped up, so I can start promoting it to everybody. But in that first box up there, you have like a chat function. So this is where all your communications come in. So if you set up email accounts, if you put a widget on your website, if you hook it to Facebook, which is getting ready to be an option, or whatever you want to do, or even text messages, they'll all come in there, right? They'll all come in chat. So everything from everywhere will come into chat, and you can manage it all out of there.
Nice.
It's got a robust calendar on it where you can set meetings. You can send a link to your client, to your property owner, and say, hey, here's a link to my calendar. Pick a time, when would be a good time to come out and see your property. And you can have, times blocked on that. So if you've ever used like Calendarly or anything like that, it's just like that,
Definitely.
where you can set it up to only take appointments in the time slots you're available. So if you're working another job, right, and you can only look at houses on the weekends or whatever, you can set your calendar accordingly to that. Database is just all your contacts, all your leads, all your your title company or your realtors or wherever you want to put into the database. The phone, for anybody that's used a phone system or a CRM, usually you've got to tie it to Twilio or another phone service. This platform has the phones built right into it, right?
Really?
So you can go into phones and you can buy a phone line for 70 cents a month, and you can buy as many of them as you want. So if you want to hook up, and you want to, send text messages out of them, and you don't want to dump, 1,000 texts on one phone line, right? You can go in and buy 10 lines. And then when you set up the automation, you can have it use each line 10% of the time. So you can say, here's a list of 1,000, names I want to text. And it will text, one here, one here, one here. And it will just round robin through your numbers and, and text it out. So it keeps your phone number quality good, so it doesn't go to spam or you don't get tagged as spam or whatever. So phones are great. Also, you have, like you can do voice recordings. You can do the, if you want to talk to sales, press 1. If you want to talk to whatever, press 2, and have it like ring to your cell phone or whatever you want it to do. So it's a nice, nice phone system. Pipelines, I've got a pipeline for motivated sellers, for cash buyers, for driving for dollars, for mobile homes, for vacant land. You can go in there and set up a pipeline for anything you want it to be. So when a lead comes in off your website, it just drops right in the pipeline, right? New lead, follow up with them. And then, you can go right into the lead, click the phone number, your dialer will dial them and all that. So it's all, it's all automated. The pipeline, as you move things down the pipeline, you might have like the initial call to check motivation. And then the next one would be schedule a time to go look at the property. So when you move that over to the schedule appointment, you can actually set it up to where you can trigger that to text the prospect and say, hey, it was great talking to you. Here's a link to my calendar, set an appointment, and I'll come out and see the property. So you can do the automations however you want to set them up on the platform.
Nice.
The community tab there, I wanted to do this for the newer wholesalers, but the community tab, you can go right in there, and everybody on the platform that signs up for the community, you can see them in there. So it's kind of like a very advanced Facebook group, right? You can post, post things in there, post pictures in there, videos or whatever. There's a section of it where it's a live chat where people can go in there, and as soon as you type it, it's, the conversation's going on. You can look people up in the directory. So if you're talking to somebody and you want to, message them directly, you can just click on it, send them a direct message and say, hey, I see you're also in St. Louis, you want to go grab lunch and, maybe team up on some deals or whatever. So it's a, just a good way to connect with other wholesalers. You can get in there and ask questions. Hey, I'm doing a multifamily deal. Should I order, multiples, or way it is, whatever the question is. So it's nice that you can just get in there and talk. You don't have to leave and go try to find a Facebook group or whatever. So community on there, any deal machine to prop stream in there, but really any platform you have, I can integrate into an iframe. So when you click on deal machine, it opens it right up in the CRM. You don't have to go to like the deal machine website or whatever. Opens up right there. And I'm working with all the companies on API automation. So let's say you're using Deal Machine and you're out driving for dollars and you tag a property, it will automatically move that information into your CRM.
Right.
Right. So you don't have to like download the list and upload it to the CRM and all that. It'll be automatic.
Nice.
Title order is set up with my title company. They're a national investor friendly title company. So no matter what state you're in, no matter where you're at, if you click on there, you can order title and it goes directly to them. They can do assignment closes. They can do a simultaneous close where they're using the funds from the second transaction to fund the first transaction. Whatever you want to do, they can do. So you don't need to look for title companies anymore. You just click that, go in there, order title.
Wow.
The below that you've got funding, and it's for either transactional funding or hard money funding. So if you've got a deal, you're in Illinois, you can't couldn't do an assignment because of the laws there. You can just click there and get transactional funding for your deal.
Oh man, awesome.
And we've been talking a lot about this, but Lenny, but the off market is the off market MLS
Exactly.
that we're talking about. So you can go on there if you're a wholesaler, instead of like looking for cash buyers or putting stuff on Facebook or whatever. This is going to be a national off market MLS that's interconnected. So a lot of people like myself and Lenny and whoever are going to have platforms, and they're all going to be interconnected. So if you go on mine and list a property, then people on Lenny's platform or anybody else will see the property. And Connected Investors is tying into this. A lot of the big coaches and gurus and title companies and all that, they're all very interested in this. So this is probably going to end up being a pretty big thing, right? So I'm excited about having that on there. And then real quick, lastly, the website tab there. I've got 4 websites built out for people where all you really have to do is go in and drop your logo and your phone number and your company name and tie a domain to it from like GoDaddy. Other than that, the websites are free. So, nobody can say, oh, I can't have a website anymore, right? They're too expensive. I don't want to pay here at $100. What, you can go on there and in 2 minutes customize your website and have a website for your business.
Now
So,
this is awesome. What I want, I wanted to go back really quick, and I wanted to touch on the title order, right?
okay.
That's a big thing, man. That is a big thing, and because I've actually found out, well, where I'm at in Springfield, Missouri, we use Titan Title, right? Titan
Okay.
Title is basically the investors go to closing company. And there are a few others, but they're not as skilled as Titan Title as far as you said, even as far as using this buyer's money,
Mhm.
from B to fund A, and get
Yeah,
that.
there's very because it's because of title underwriting, but there's very few title companies that will do called a simultaneous close where they're using cash for
Right.
one to fund the other one, and most underwriters will not accept it. Right? This won't. So that's where transactional funding or back-to-back closings came into play, but. This, Walter, who's the contact for all of us in my platform, he's been in the industry for years. He's actually, it's the title is through Title Escrow in Clearing, but he's actually associated with 2 title companies. The other one is the one that will do the simultaneous close, but they can do
Nice.
whichever place it needs to go. He can take it to either place, and and then they can set up a mobile notary to do the close or use a local title company or whatever.
Right.
This is what their company does. They do investor title. So it's so again, nobody on the platform is ever going to have to look for a title company again.
Nice, man. And the community tab on this thing is a big, big deal. Um, because it's real time, right? It's
Real
real time
time.
stat. You ain't got to post a deal or talk about the deal 5 hours from now and get a response. You know, 10 hours later, like
Yeah.
there's people in the feed. You
Yeah.
know that's yeah,
So the cool thing about this, Lenny, too, is the app that I put in there for the community. It actually has a separate phone app, right? So if somebody wants to, in my CRM also has a phone app. But if you want to also download just that community app, if somebody messages you directly or you're in a conversation, you'll get notifications, right? So it'll be like, hey,
wow,
somebody's reaching out to you, or somebody responded to this, or if you just want to set on the set on your phone at night and be in the the feed and just talk to people, right? And have that live interaction going on. But it's I just I people always have questions, and people want need answers kind of quick and stuff. So I just thought, if we've got a lot of people on the platform, people will be in there, and instead of waiting
definitely.
until the the RIA meeting or whatever, you can just get on there and ask somebody the question.
Exactly, dude. This is excuse me, big deal is probably an understatement when we talking about this system here. Because I believe the system is going to be massive, right? Um, I mean, you can integrate, like you said, even if you're not using deal machine or prop stream, you can integrate whatever it is that you're using.
Yeah. So I have that's right now. It's something I'm trying to make it so it's automated, but it's something that I have to do manually, and I have
Right.
people working for me on it. So so if you get the platform and you're doing real flow or something, or privy or something else, and you say, hey David, I want this in there, I can go in and plug it in and pop it into your system, right? So it's customized around the software that you're using, right? So it's not just, hey, I'm going to force you to use what I'm using, right? Let's find the right thing that you're already using, and I'll just plug it in. You're using batch leads, or you're using whatever. You can, we'll get whatever you want in there.
Most definitely, dude. That is awesome. And then, like you said, you can 79 cents a month for the number for the
For
phone
the
number.
phone number, there's 70 cents per line.
Seventy
Right. So,
cents.
so if somebody's like using like Ring Central or something like that,
Right.
I mean, they'd be able to drop that and come over here and buy all the lines that you want.
Wow. That is definitely a game changer. Like you said, you can automate those to only do certain
Right.
percentages at a time.
Yeah. If
Like
you
that
look
is
at any place, because so many people dropping voicemails and doing text messaging and all that stuff. So all the phone carriers are starting to look at, your credibility as a marketer now. So, they like, people to opt in and to do all these things, but, just to keep it clean, right? So if you're marketing, you always want to have the, reply stop to get out of the messages, right? You always want to have that, and you don't want to overdo it on one line, right? As you build up your credibility, so that's why it's smart to have multiple lines, depending on how many text messages you're sending out, and just like I said, round robin them, so you're not sending out 1,000 on one number, right? You can some here, some here, some here. Wait the next day, some, and just do it, reasonably.
no doubt. Real quick, Dave, man. We know you from Detroit, right? We know
From
you back,
Detroit.
back and forth from the D to because I never knew you from Detroit. That's that's interesting to me because I've been bumping into a lot of people from Detroit lately, and I actually have somebody who I just met. She's trying to close her first deal. Her name's Donna. I just put her an absentee list
Okay.
from Detroit, so I should most definitely get you two together, and you two guys get some deals done in Detroit for sure. Um, Dave, man, there's a few questions that I ask people. I always ask anybody if there are 3 books that you recommend for the audience to read, what 3 books would those be?
Oh wow! I think my favorite all time is Think and Grow Rich, which probably a lot of people say, but it's a very popular book, and it just teaches you about really the message of it is you become what you think about, right? And that's either good or bad. So if you want to be a real estate person, you want to surround yourself with successful real estate people, but it works the opposite way. If you surround yourself with criminals and people that are less than desirable, then you're going to end up like that too. So
Yeah.
definitely Think and Grow Rich. How to Win Friends and Influence People by Dale Carnegie. It teaches you about human nature and just how to treat people, how to get people to respond positively to you, how to get people to interact to you, how to make people in your life feel important. But it's a good book just on human nature,
Nice.
and how it's like a human owner's manual kind of. And then I like for me I like the book The 4 Hour Work Week, where it really just teaches you not to do mundane tasks this for the to the pleasure of doing mundane tasks. We're all kind of groomed that like you got to go to work and work 40 hours and do it again next week and all that, and you can get a lot of stuff done in a lot less time if you just structure your life right,
Right.
and don't do tasks that you could easily delegate to somebody else.
Nice, man. Dave. So Dave, so from start to finish, well, you leave some things out, okay? But from start to finish, what does your day look like? Like, what does an average day look like for you?
My Lenny, my day is different than typical wholesaler because I do all this stuff now, right? I'm online a lot, um, working on a website, working on a CRM. I'm working with virtual assistants in the Philippines. I talk to people across the country. I'll do video calls with them. I have real estate friends in Australia, so I'm up late at night talking to them. I still have buyers that I'm friends with, and wholesalers that I'm friends with. So a lot of networking, a lot of trying to figure out what will help people. A lot of those types of tasks. In my wholesaling life, it's much more boring, right?
Right.
Wholesaling, if I'm out wholesaling, and this is for the benefit of people listening to this that are just getting into the wholesaling or looking to up their amount of deals. If when I'm wholesaling, if it's not an activity that directly gets me a lead, I don't want to do it. Right? When I wholesale, I get my butt in the car and I drive for dollars, and I don't do it for 20 minutes. I do it for 6 or 8 hours. Right? I get a big box of envelopes with my door letters in it, and I get in the car and I use blue masking tape to tape the note to the door so people see it and I don't mess up the paint on the door. And I go up one street and down the next looking for vacant houses, and I do it, for hours and hours. And because the more you do anything, the better results you're going to have from it. So if it's getting, making phone calls, if it's driving for dollars, if it's putting up bandit signs, if it's whatever your marketing is, just a lot of it, right? And just
Right.
over and over and over and over and over again. And then, of course, when somebody calls off that, going to look at a house, negotiating, put it under contract. I can get rid of a house pretty quick because I've got, people that I've known in the industry that are big buyers. So when I look at a house, it's a matter of taking 80 or 100 pictures of it, settling on a price. I throw all the pictures in Dropbox, and I text 6 or 8 investors that I know the link to Dropbox, and I say, hey, I've got this house under contract. You can have it for 110 grand or whatever my number is, and usually I've got it gone by the next day. So actually, wholesaling is easier than what I find myself doing most days now, which is building CRMs and
Right, right.
people online, right?
Yeah.
Making YouTube videos and all that stuff.
Yeah, you digging into the processes now.
Yeah,
Creating well you're actually helping us create processes.
help it. I mean, you know what? I'm not. You can tell because I give away my course
Yeah,
for
yeah,
free. I
yeah,
give away
yeah.
stuff for free. I'm not greedy, right? If you're a coach, I'll help you coach people, right? I'll say,
Right,
hey, this is how I coach people. If I reached out to you, or I don't remember if I reached out to you, you reached out to me, but about the marketplace, right? I could
right.
be greedy and go, oh, I'm just going to keep this marketplace for myself. But I think the more people that are on there, the more beneficial it is, right?
Most definitely.
I'm not, I want to see everybody do well, right?
Right.
Wholesalers, investors, other coaches, influencers. I don't care who you are. If I can help you, I'll help you.
Most definitely, man. And we definitely appreciate you, especially all the guys who didn't close deals, man, and all the girls who didn't close deals. Really quick, Dave, if you had to write a book tomorrow, right, what would you write about?
Um, if I had to write a book tomorrow, wow. Of course, I want to say wholesaling, right? Because it's what I spend my days doing. Um, I mentioned I was talking to the lady this morning from Colorado, and I was joking with her, and I was joking, and I said, I'm going to write a book or do a course that just says, just shut up and wholesale, right? It's because there's so much garbage out there. There's so much like you need the next thing or whatever. People just need to get serious and go out and work, get offline, roll up your sleeves, get out there and do it. And it would probably be a very short book, but that would be my book. Right?
I know that's right.
Just get off your ass and go work, right?
Yeah, that sounds like a pretty great book.
That's how I've done things my whole life. Lenny is from I sold forklifts when I was young, in my 20s, industrial equipment. I've been in the mortgage business. I rehabbed houses and all that, and I didn't sit around and talk about doing anything. I just did it.
Right.
Even with the website. When I started the Wholesalers Toolbox, I didn't know what a website was. Right? I did. Here's funny. You're gonna laugh at this. The Wholesalers Toolbox is built on Weebly.
No, really.
It's built on Weebly because I didn't know how to build a website, right?
Yeah.
I don't know
Yeah.
WordPress. I don't know that. I built it on Weebly. I'm like, well, just and it just grew. I probably get more traffic because I get probably 16,000 unique visitors a month on that site, and it's probably the highest volume Weebly site there is, right? I'm like, think of how many websites there are in the country, and the popularity of my site, I believe, falls right around 200,000,
Oh wow.
which isn't top 10, but you think about how many millions and millions of websites there are.
Exactly.
That ain't bad, right?
Not
So,
at all.
but that would be my, unless I get into something philosophical or,
Yeah.
I don't get political, so that wouldn't be my thing. But, it would probably be about work ethic and what it takes to get that success that you're looking for.
Most definitely. So we talked about the 3 books, right? We talked about the 3 books, the 3 authors, that you would recommend. Lastly, last question before we go. If you had, actually, before we go, we open up to Q&A. We actually got Ryan and Terry on.
Okay.
Um, before you go, and before we start the Q&A, what historical figure or author or actor or um, anyone who you may have looked up to or idolized, that you would, have a couple, that you would want to have a cup of coffee with one day?
It's funny. I'm not big for necessarily idolizing people, right? And famous figures and all that stuff. Honestly, if I had my choice, because I was a younger man when he died, I would like to sit down with my grandfather and have a grown up conversation, and just ask him, man stuff, right? And
Perfect. Yeah, great. Yeah, awesome.
be it. He was old school, but just a good kind of guy. Everybody looked up to him, but I never had in-depth conversations with him because I was a younger fella. So
Awesome, most definitely, man. Thanks so much, man. I definitely get it. We actually have Jerry on. Jerry, you there?
Oh, where am I? I was there.
Yeah, we want to know, man. Did you have any questions or anything?
I'm trying to find the living room you're at.
You said where we at?
I've lost video feed, so I don't know.
Oh yeah, we see you. Well, we can hear you as as
Yeah,
well.
I just wondering, with the program, what's the startup cost to work with you?
Dave.
the start, I honestly, I don't take on students. If you want to reach out to me, I'd have a phone call with you and talk about what you're trying to accomplish and your background, and I'll give you my advice on the best way to attack it. But I always tell people, Jerry, that this is my opinion. I think it's best to find somebody in your area, right? That's either another wholesaler getting going in the business or somebody that will kind of mentor you a little bit. But I think mostly people want like an accountability partner more than anything. So I think if you find another wholesaler in your area and just go have lunch with them and just say, hey, let's work together. Let's figure this thing out. Let's go drive for dollars. Let's hang bandit signs and all that stuff. That's the best way to attack it. But if you want to reach out to me through the website, the Wholesalers Toolbox, I'll certainly schedule a call with you and we can talk about your journey.
All right, thank you.
Absolutely.
No doubt, most definitely, Jerry, man. Thanks for coming on. But yeah, Dave, man, that's it. Man, I appreciate you stopping by the show, man. We might have to edit a part of it, but we're okay. Okay. Well, we might not.
What are we at, an hour? So it'll
Might
probably
have
get down to about 32 minutes.
Yeah, something like that. But Dave, man, once again, Dave, tell these guys about you. Like I said, it's at the bottom of the screen, guys. The wholesalerstoolbox.com, guys. Go dig in. He has Wholesaler University. It's free. Guys, there's a ton of information. As you just heard him reach out to Jerry, he's not coaching anybody, but he'd love to hear your journey. Reach out to him there. Get some valuable information. Don't bug the man to death, okay? Because he's busy, okay? He's building awesome tools and stuff for us, as you guys can see, okay? So guys, stick with it if you guys want to join that flipping. Get with Dave as
Yeah,
well.
that'll be out probably, in the next couple weeks, Lenny. And again, I'm gonna make that like I want everybody to have it, right? So I'm gonna make it like super affordable because everybody needs it.
No doubt, guys. Everybody definitely need it. And if you just jumping in, you don't know what we're talking about, guys, you should go back and check out this new system, man. It's definitely going to be a game changer for your real estate investing business, as well as your, any buy and hold strategies that you want, as well. Dave, I actually saw something on the website, the wholesalers calculator. I do want to bring you on another show, man. So
Yeah,
we actually,
the wholesaling spreadsheet. I
yes,
actually have
spreadsheet.
somebody, a couple tools I didn't mention. I have somebody working on a really like a calculator, very easy to use. rehab calculator that I'm hoping to put on a website on the CRM. So when somebody goes out to a property, they can just open up a sheet or open up a web page and just type in like if it needs a roof, if it needs windows, whatever, and be able to crank out a rehab price without having any knowledge of how to, to estimate repairs. So that's going to be an exciting tool.
Oh yeah, that's definitely going to be a game changer, man. Definitely going to be a game changer. So guys, look out for that. Guys, Dave, thanks again for coming
Thanks,
by.
Lenny.
Man, like once again, man, it was a pleasure having you. Great talking to you, man. I love to get you, like I said, I love to get you on again. So, once everything is up and running, so we can kind of get everybody.
I'll be making the rounds.
Yes,
Trust
sir.
me.
So we can get everybody on through, man. Once again, Dave, man, thank you so much.
Thanks.
Bye-bye.
Later.
Guys, stay tuned for a little ad from our sponsors. Guys, you know what it is. You can get your free trial from Batch Leads.
Real estate investors, are you wanting to scale your real estate investing business? Batch Leads is the answer. Why? Because direct-to-seller marketing is the key. It's finding motivated sellers. And with Batch Leads, you can skip trace, you can list stack, you can market via SMS or direct mail. It is truly the answer to scaling your business. Check it out and sign up today.